Why are Italian mothers in a hurry to send their children to a nursery from 5 months old? Why schools are not allowed to refuse parents if they brought a 4-year-old to study? What does a specialty with an open number of students mean, and a specialty with closed number of students? Is it true that it is not necessary to come to your own diploma defense in Italy? And why are Italian students really eternal students? We will learn this and much more from this video. Preschool education, a quiet hour in shoes and pizza for lunch. Since according to Italian law, maternity leave for Italian mothers lasts 5 months. It can be extended, but then maternity leave will be only 30%. Then most parents tend to give their child to the nursery group of the kindergarten. Italians also consider it normal if the child will be looked after by grandparents. But still not constantly, because in Italy they are sure that the child should be socialized as soon as possible. So that's why Italians are so sociable. There are several types of kindergartens in the country: private, municipal, and Catholic. Most often, children are sent to Catholic schools not because of religious considerations, but because there are more places and the price for staying in such a kindergarten is 2 times lower than in a regular one, about €200 instead of 400. Such kindergartens do not differ much from the usual ones, only nuns perform as educators. Private kindergartens take everyone who has the opportunity to pay. But in order to get into a municipal kindergarten, it is necessary to take into account both the family income and the number of employees in the family. That is, a working single mother is faster and more willing to be allocated a place in kindergarten than a married couple in which only the father works. Russian mothers living in other countries often complain that there are no lunches and canteens in foreign kindergartens, or that there is no quiet hour. In Italy, preschool institutions are more like ours, and there are canteens here with meals and a quiet hour in some kindergartens. In what way they differ from the usual representation? For lunch, children can be given pizza, and children should sleep in shoes because of fire safety considerations. In case of an alarm, the child was able to immediately get up and go to the exit. At the same time, a mandatory requirement for shoes is the absence of laces and fasteners. Only Velcro is possible. School education. Why high school students are necessarily sent to the Lyceum. Italian children start attending school at the age of 6 and sometimes 5 years. There is no strict law regarding the age of students, and the school is obliged to accept a student regardless of the number of his years, if the parents decided so. A psychologist also works with children in primary school, which helps to identify problems, if any. And he also helps the child to use his skills and talents correctly so that the study is effective. Subjects such as math or Italian are usually taught in the morning, when children are not too tired yet. And after lunch, the children are engaged in more creative lessons, for example, drawing. Primary school lasts for 5 years, and at the age of 10 to 11, a student begins secondary school. Most often, it is a completely different building with new classmates and teachers. It is believed that such a system allows you to adapt to new conditions faster and not be afraid of changes. In secondary school, children study for 3 years, and the set of basic subjects here is about the same as in Russia. But after middle school, the most interesting thing begins. The student begins his studies at a high school or lyceum. So literally you can translate the term liceo, which denotes the high school. Here the child can already choose a profile at the lyceum and enroll in the Liceo Artistico, a school with an artistic bias. Scientifico, a school with a scientific bias. Classico, classical, where the main focus is on languages and literature, as well as history and philosophy. There, children already study the list of subjects that they need for their future profession or university studies. Absence of entrance exams after graduation from university. Usually, to become a student of a particular faculty, it is enough just to submit all the necessary documents. There is no need to take entrance tests or pass the so-called competition. We are talking, however, about specialties with numero aperto, which literally means open quantity. We are talking about students. These are those specialties in which there is no definitely allocated number of places. Perhaps sometimes for this reason there is not enough space for everyone in lecture halls, and some students are forced to sit right on the floor. The situation is somewhat different with faculties with the so-called numero chiuso, with a closed number of students or limited. This includes such specialties as medicine, dentistry, psychology, engineering and others, depending on the university and region. You can enter these specialties only by passing an entrance test, usually divided into several blocks in different subjects, and having passed the competition. We are talking about public universities. In private conditions may be different. Somewhere it will be easier to enroll. The hardest thing will be to enroll in specialties related to medicine, regardless of whether it is a public university or a private one. For example, in 2020, out of 66,000 applicants for specialties related to medicine and dentistry, about 13,000 were enrolled in universities of the country. There is usually no state exam before defending a diploma here either. It is enough to pass all the exams in the program, complete an internship, and complete a graduation project. Sometimes exams are taken by students of medical or psychological specialties, and then, not before graduation but after. Doctors take the exam if they plan to continue their studies in residency, and psychologists, unless, in that case, after the bachelor's degree, they decided not to continue their studies in the magistracy, but they want to work by profession. Before I move on to the next part, don't forget to like this video for the collected material. I'd also remind you that in the description of this video, you will find useful links to our social networks, as well as the website, smapse.com, where you can find a selection of different universities. There you can also ask questions to online consultants. We continue. A language test for international students that is not terrible to fail. It is also not necessary for foreign students to take an entrance exam to study at an Italian university, if the specialty does not imply this. But if a student plans to study in Italian, then he must provide a certificate of language proficiency at the B2 or C1 level, depending on the university and the program, or take the test right on the spot at the university. This test is called Prova di Lingua. It takes place at each university in different ways. Somewhere it is conducted in the form of a test directly with grammar, reading, writing, and listening. Somewhere it can do with a regular interview with a teacher and reading, when the applicant will need to explain a fragment from a textbook on a subject from the field in which he plans to study. At the same time, if the applicant has not passed the minimum, then most often this exam is simply postponed to the next year, and he, as a student, can attend free Italian language courses at the university. These are far from the only free benefits that you can grab. If you do everything correctly in terms of collecting documents, you can reduce the cost of studying at the university to €156 per year. To recapture €140 from them and become the owner of a scholarship that not only covers tuition and housing costs, but also gives the right to receive meals for free or at a nominal price in the university canteen. If you are considering studying in Italy and would like to learn more about scholarship options, please contact the Smapse staff. They will definitely help you and prompt you with the choice of the program and with the collection of all necessary documents, including visas. Absenteeism is allowed. For 3 or more failed exams, students are not deducted. The teacher does not mark those present, and the fact that the student attended the lectures or not has little effect on the assessment on the exam. The teacher does not mark those present, and the fact that the student attended the lectures or not has little effect on the assessment on the exam. Usually there are too many students in such specialties, and it is simply unrealistic to remember all of them, and teachers are only interested in students answering the exam according to the program that the professor gave them. They don't have a goal to fail anyone on exam. Even if there was such a goal, it is unlikely that they would have succeeded. In Italian universities, sometimes there must be a so-called witness on the exam, just so that everything is as objective as possible. Usually such witnesses are the examinees themselves. The situation is more complicated for students studying in closed specialties. But even here, attending lectures is not always strictly mandatory. However, it is assumed that in such specialties there are so-called laboratory or practical classes. In order to pass a test on them, you need to attend at least 75% of classes. Sessions in Italy several times a year. Usually exams can be taken in January, February, June, July, or September. At the same time, if a student fails the exam more than 3 times, he will get nothing for it. This subject is just automatically transferred to the next year. They don't expel you for failing here. Students can spend as much time as they need to take the exam. Perhaps that is why there are so many students in Italy who have been studying for more than 5 years. even when the program lasts only 2 years. When a student has completed the entire course of study but still hasn't passed all exams, he becomes a fuori corso student, which can literally be translated as out of the course. And usually, according to the rules of the university, he can be fuori corso for an infinite number of years. The rules are the same for international students, but it must be borne in mind that the residence permit is extended for the first 2 to 3 years fuori corso. That is, it will not be possible to be an eternal student here all the time. You can defend your thesis and graduate from the university almost all year round. The main condition is that the last exam must be passed at least a month before the expected date of thesis defense. At the same time, if a student is admitted to the defense, it already means that he is a graduate. And the defense itself is a formality and a tribute to traditions. In some universities, it is not even necessary to attend it. It's just that in this case you will get 0 points, but this will not affect your graduation at all. They come to the diploma defense dressed up and with an audience, with family and friends who patiently guard a bottle of champagne and a laurel wreath while you speak before the commission. Then, according to tradition, after defending themselves, they open the bottle, arranging a fountain in front of the doors of the university, and his best friend puts that cherished wreath on his head. It is believed that anyone who can snatch a leaf from a graduate's wreath will be lucky. It was 5 facts about education in Italy. If you liked this format, please like this video for preparing the material. Write in the comments what topics about education abroad that you are interested in. All useful links will be in the description.